Hello YouTube, this is Thomas Judge back once again with another instalment of my ongoing YouTube series, Valiant to the Last, in which I look at every single Valiant Deluxe Edition, one at a time. Today's video, Shadowman, Deluxe Edition, Volume 1. This is quite a whale of a book, and I'm quite lucky that I have it as a Deluxe Edition, but of course I have all the Deluxe Editions. Let's dive straight into it. We've got the usual cover here. This is a variant cover of issue 1, I think. Usual banner at the top, side banner. The spine is the usual sort of thing. As per, it has that very faint, subtle kind of diagonal hatching, which is what makes it so difficult to make custom dust jackets for Valiant. What we have here, a backsplash usual blurb. On the inside, we've got an inside French flap there. We've got an inside French flap here. And immediately here we can see something a bit odd. We've got an end leaf page, which is actually an image. Like this is glued down onto the back of it. At least it is for mine. I bought mine second hand, so please let me know if I bought this of some kind of nutter that actually decided to glue down his end pages. But as far as I can tell, we actually have an end page here for the first time in a Valiant Deluxe Edition that's actually printed onto the final bit that's glued onto the hardcover itself. The front, however, is just black, which does make me think that someone did something weird here, or maybe it's a printing error, who knows. Anyway, let's look at the rest of it. It does actually have Shadowman written on it, but it's just an emboss. So there's no foil, there's nothing like that. You can feel it with your finger and you can see it in the right light, but it's not even black foil, it's literally just stamped in. Similarly here, can you see that? You all can see that. So it's got the usual stuff there, so it look good on your shelf. The fact that it's black on black kind of works for the supernatural theme that it is. Let's dive straight into the content. So this is Shadowman Book 1. What does it consist of? It has, two trade paperbacks and then a bit more. So the first one is Birthrights, which is issues 1 to 4, which is, I guess, kind of the origin and setup of the character. This is a series that came out in 2012, so way back at the beginning of the Valiant reboot. So that's Birthrights issues 1 to 4. It then collects Dark Reckoning, so that's how it's pronounced. It's not Darkway or anything. So Dark Reckoning, which is issues issues 5 to 9, and that's parts 1 to 5. Then what it has here are 2 issues here. Now it calls this Masters of the Arts, but as far as I'm aware, this actually isn't collected as its own trade paperback. What we have here are issues 0 and issues 10. In that order, and we'll talk about that in a second. But from what I gather is those are actually collected in a third trade paperback, which collects issues 0, 10, 11 and 12. We'll talk about that next time because those issues are going to be the next deluxe edition we're going to look at. And then of course it has the standard gallery stuff at the bottom. Okay, let's dive into it. We've got the usual splash page with the 4 covers. So there we go with the usual splash page with the 4 covers there. Let's just dive straight into the story. So what is Shadowman about? Shadowman is a supernatural story. He is based in New Orleans. He has, for want of a better term, magic voodoo powers. And it's a very supernatural magic based story. First things first, I should let you know, as I've said many times before, I'm not into supernatural stories. I've been kind of dreading and putting off reading Shadowman on the basis that I'm not a fan of supernatural stuff. And I was worried I wasn't going to enjoy it. That said, everything that I'm about to say next is with that caveat in mind. And it does remind me of a particular thing that happened to me a few years ago. I was out in town centre and I went to buy some ice cream from a sort of local ice cream stand, and they had cappuccino flavoured ice cream. And I asked the guy behind the counter, I was like, right, is that any good? And he said, no, it's disgusting, I can't stand it. But, he added, I can't stand coffee. To which my response was, right, sold, I will have a scoop. And I had it and it was very nice. And the reason I say that is because you've got to keep in mind, if someone who says they can't stand coffee doesn't like coffee flavoured ice cream, it's probably a good thing. With that in mind, what I'll say is this story was okay, but I didn't love it and it wasn't great. Just give me a second. I just wanted to point out this is the splash page for the second trade paperback, and then we'll carry on flicking through. Cool cover. So yeah, it was okay. It was not brilliant. It felt very by the numbers. I don't find supernatural stuff very fun. This wasn't terrible, but if I read this in trades and this wasn't available in deluxe and it wasn't from Valiant, I would have just blinked, missed it, and ignored it, to be honest. This is Dr. Mirage, who we haven't met in the Shadowman series until this point of the first volume, and she then spins out into her own deluxe edition, and we've already come across her in a few other series like Exo Manowar and Ninjak and things like that. She's quite cool. I quite like her as a character. But Jack Boniface, the guy who plays Shadowman, I don't know, I just found it tedious. Tedious is too harsh a word. It just wasn't really for me. The artwork is good. Like, let's be serious about this. The deluxe edition has a decent build quality. The artwork is good. The storyline makes sense and it's competent and it's reasonably consistent and well put together. It just wasn't especially interesting for me. So the fact that I didn't love it was, in a way, kind of expected, but in a way slightly disappointing. There have been quite a few fantastical and supernatural aspects of the Valiant universe so far. Things like in Wrath of the Eternal Warrior, or in a couple of Ninjak series and spin-offs like Rapture and things like that. So the fact that it was okay was kind of disappointing, but kind of expected. That's the end of the second trade paperback. We then go into Masters of the Art, just two covers here. These two issues were probably the best issues out of all of them, I thought. And the reason for that is that these two issues focus solely on the origin story and the genesis of the character of Dark, who is the main supernatural antagonist, the big bad, as it were. Dark seems a little bit like someone like Dr. Faust from DC Comics, in that he's just a magical villain. But his backstory is kind of vaguely interesting, I thought. I found these two issues to be the strongest out of all of them. I don't know what it says when the strongest and best issues out of a Shadowman Deluxe Edition are the ones that don't have Shadowman in. This dude is Shadowman's like ancestor. It's not actually Shadowman, as in the one we know. So I don't know what that says about me. I don't know what that says about the character. But those were just my thoughts. I didn't mind reading it, but like I say, not especially loving it, which is a bit of a shame because this deluxe hardcover was a difficult one to track down. When we get into the gallery, we've got a decent gallery section. As you can see, decent pencil sketches, decent bits and pieces. Dr. Mirage talks to the dead. Yes, she does. That's her thing. Yeah, all good. And then this weird printed end leaf at the end. That's all I want to say about Shadowman. I don't have a huge amount to say about it, other than it's competent and pretty average. And that's my opinion. It's readable, I guess. Of course, like I say, like that little story about the coffee ice cream, if you're a massive fan of fantasy, and fan of the supernatural, then you should probably interpret that as some kind of ringing endorsement. To be honest, always consider the source of who's telling you this. What I'll say is that for me, this was, it's alright, I suppose. I've got it in my collection, and I'm not going to begrudge that because this is a whale and very hard to find. So, that's this week's reading out of the way. Next week, we're going to be reading Shadowman Deluxe Edition Volume 2, which picks up exactly where this left off, and it starts with issue 11, and it contains the rest of this series, and then it also contains Shadowman, like a mini-series called End Times. But we'll see that in the Deluxe Edition next time. So, until then, thanks for watching.
Alright, thanks for watching everybody. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. As always, please follow me on Twitter at I am Thomas Judge, where I will post a daily review of whatever comics I've been reading. You can get an idea of what I'm up to on the channel. And as always, please support the channel by heading over to Amazon.com and checking out my prose novel about superheroes. It's a completely original piece of work. The first episode in it is called Arrivals, and the series as a whole is called No Gods or Kings. You can find an excerpt of that on my website, nogodsorkings.com. Until next time, everybody, stay classy.